Hello, welcome back to Fable Stan, and this is Kim. So, before I start, I just want to say that I'm currently half blind, and by that I mean like not that my hair is covering my eye, but I've been wearing Ortho K, which is like a special medical contact lens that shapes your cornea, so your eyeball would maintain a certain level of clarity, which corrects your nearsightedness. So basically allows you to see properly. I'm not sure how to explain the technology. If you can just like look it up. But basically what I do is I wear them during the night when I go to bed, and then in the morning I can just basically spend the entire day without wearing any contact lenses or any glasses, and I'll be able to see, which is magical. But my right lens is currently broken, and I just ordered in a new one from my optometrist, and it takes like 2 weeks to get here. So I'm currently like functioning at limited vision and currently visually impaired. It's not been fun. Like, I've been trying to use my laptop to do some work and also just browse and like spend some leisure time, but I just literally can't see much on the screen because I have to like lean so close. Because the Ortho K, the contact lens, doesn't correct your vision completely. Like, you leave some astigmatism in my eye. So it's not like 100% HD vision, but anyway, yeah, so I've been suffering from being visually impaired, like, which makes me think, like, before glasses were invented, how did people cope with this kind of thing? I think you just had bad eyesight, like, there was just no hope for you, like, right? Anyway, Uh, so I arbitrarily decided to make a video, and I also felt like really drawn to making this video just because I've recently discovered and uncovered a lot of business insights and also insights towards it's just like a mixed bag of sorts. Like, I gain a lot of insights towards my business, how I want to experience my business, how I want to experience my creativity, how I want to live my life, and lots of different things. Like, the lessons that you have in your life tend to spill into like multiple areas, right? It's not just like you have one breakthrough with money and business and then you have breakthroughs with your relationship. Usually the stories that you have in your system, they tend to affect all areas of your life. But yeah, in this video, I just kind of want to talk to you about my experiences with running an online business. And I posted videos about this before. I usually talk about my journey with business, but I think most of the time I would usually come from a more emotional and healing perspective. I would talk about my journeys with online business, how I came to find my self-worth, how I came to heal creatively and stuff like that. In this video, I want to talk more about like the technical and practical aspects of things, and I kind of want to tell you my experiences with 3 different modes of running an online business and how I sort of arrived at a conclusion, or just where I am now, about like how I sort of found what I really want to do and what I really want to create and how I want to show up in the world, in the online business world, and how I want to show up into your community. So this video might be for you if you're kind of like a misfit of sorts, like you don't really know which lane you fit into. Like, sometimes you want to have an online business, a heart-centered online business. It's very clear for you to, which lane that you want to be on, and also whose examples you have to follow. But if you're kind of like me, you're like kind of spiritual, kind of creative, kind of want to be a teacher, but kind of don't really have a category for yourself, maybe this will help you find your lane, because it certainly took me a lot of time to find mine. So I just want to kind of share with you my first of all, sort of my story with experimenting with these 3 different modes of running an online business. And I want to tell you like some of the practical stuff, if you're sort of pursuing or you're trying to decide which lane you want to go on. You can just learn from my failures. No, learn from the paths that I've trod so that you can have a better idea, like what to expect, etc. So, yeah, I mean, I guess just a really quick recap. All the times that I've talked about having an online business on this channel, mostly it's about like, like how I overcame issues of self-worth. I used to have like a lot of hang-ups with promoting. I didn't want to sound salesy. I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want people to think that, oh, I just want your money, which is not true. And I didn't want to just come from a completely just solely like marketing perspective. It's like, I just want you to buy my stuff, which is also not true, because this is sort of like, this is obviously coming from like a place of sharing and a place of love. I want to share what I've created with the world, and also I want the world to know that I've created this thing. So I used to have a lot of hang-ups about promotions, and I used to have a lot of wounds in my creative identity that I had to go through. I posted like a couple of videos about that. But yeah, most of what I've talked about when it comes to business is more like my personal journey and the more psychological and emotional aspect of it. Like, you know, I talked about commitment and how this is like a commitment I deepen into, and how like if you stop a while and then start a while and then you stop a while, you should just keep going anyway, because you never know what's going to happen. And if it's something that you want to do, the only way to fail is if you quit, right? So I talked a lot about, like, I guess the spiritual narrative surrounding my business. But in this video, I'll talk to you about, like I said, the pragmatic part of it. Yeah, so, but then I think part of the reason why I talked a lot about that, like I talked about my business in this through the lens of spirituality, I think it's because it was the time where I really needed to work through a lot of stuff to kind of achieve the success that I want to achieve at the time. But then at the same time, everything is sort of circular and everything sort of, you know, it's never linear, right? You think you want one thing and you end up learning this other thing, and you readjust, and you think you want this thing, but actually you don't and you become aware of like what's actually driving that desire. So it's like kind of all over the place, to be honest. Like, it's not really like a superbly linear narrative. And yeah, but I think I talked a lot about that through the lens of spirituality, is because that was sort of what I chose to experience. You know, I chose to experience my business as a spiritual narrative, as a way for me to work through a lot of the things that I had to work through, to release, to discover and release a lot of the unhealthy stories that I had about money, about relationships, about myself. And that was sort of like my main focus. Like, I that's how I see it. Like, I think at the time, for like a long period of time, that was my intention, is to work through all the blocks that I had, and then see where I go from there. So yeah, but recently I kind of have like, I've had like a different realization, a really big epiphany, shall I say. And I'm starting to see my business very, very, very differently. And yeah, so where do I start, you know? Where do I start? So I think let's start from the beginning. Like, when I first started, wanted to start an online business, it was really like a whim. It wasn't something that I really wanted to commit to. And at the time, like, you know, I thought about things like branding, what I really want to accomplish. Well, actually not at the very, very beginning, because like I said, I sort of just started it because I just kind of liked the idea and it seemed fun, and then I kind of wanted to give it a shot. It was sort of over the course of like maybe 2 to 3 years that I really began to think about, like, what's my brand, what's my public or business persona, what's my message, or how do I want to run my business, etc. And even as I say this, it's not really like a clear thought process where I deliberately thought about these things and I figure them out just like that. It's more like, you know, I've always been the go with the flow kind of girl. I'm always sort of like between the push and pull of like going with the flow, keeping it simple, versus like this more aggressive and result-based productivity. I'm always sort of like in between, you know. I'm being tugged and pushed and pulled by my desire to just stay in the moment, and also my perfectionism. So it's kind of always been like that. I don't know if you can relate. But yeah, I think from the get-go, I think I've always been like sort of like a misfit, like kind of like a little rebel. Not intentionally rebelling against society or the idea of heart-centered business or whatever, but I just never had a category for myself. Like, I just thought I kind of wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be like a figure of wisdom, you know, because I do have a lot of insights that I want to share. But at the same time, I don't feel like I could really step into the role of being a teacher or a guide or a counselor, that type of person. I have moments where I kind of want to, or where I step into that role a little bit. But it's not really who I am. But even though it's like a part of who I am, I think. So I wanted to do that, but I'm also like a very creative person. I want to create, you know, I'm like an artist at heart, right? You know, like ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be a writer. You know, I wanted to sell books and be the next J.K. Rowling, etc. Like, just driven very much to create a lot of things. You know, like writing, blog posts, videos, tarot spreads, and eventually doodles and art and that kind of thing. So I wanted a platform where I could create things. And with social media, it's pretty easy nowadays, right? You can just upload a blog post, upload a video, and find people, find your tribe, etc. So there's that part of me. And there's also like a part of me where, because I've been an English tutor for 10 years before I quit the muggle job and then started doing this full time. I've there's also a part of me where it's very logical, it's very like good at communicating and breaking down concepts, who enjoys teaching, not spiritual in terms of like spiritual wisdom or coaching or guiding, but teaching in the way that facilitating learning, when it comes to studying tarot, when it comes to learning and trying to memorize all the definitions or trying to figure out how to use your intuition. That area of things, like I feel like I have a lot to say about that too. I can really draw from my tutoring experiences. So there's that. I thought about that. And then, of course, there's the magical part of me where it's whimsical, fantastical, who's into magical spaces, magical concepts, metaphors, and motifs. So it's like a lot. Like I didn't really know what was really my lane, so I kind of just decided to, just try, to kind of just follow whoever that's come before me, who's in the tarot online business, and then who I can just try to do what they're doing, right? So I did try out the 3 lanes, and I just want to say, like, I didn't intentionally set out to try these 3 lanes. I wasn't like, okay, I'm going to try doing this, and I'm going to try doing this, and then I'm going to try to do this. Like, that wasn't my intention. I just thought at the time, I just did what made sense for me. And something that before I move on, like when I was talking about how I was drawn to different things, right away I forgot to mention that right away I knew I wasn't a witch, because like a lot of the the online tarot community, a lot of the figures, spiritual figures and also tarot figures in tarot community, they're usually witches, they're pagan, and they talk about like really cool stuff like crystals and herbs and spells and etc. Like, but I know I knew that wasn't me, because I wasn't obviously wasn't and am not a witch. It's not something that I practice. It's not who I am. So I knew that wasn't the route I was gonna go down. So that was like another thing as well. But yeah, so I did try out sort of like 3 different modes of running an online business, and I want to share with you my stories with them, and then some tips and suggestions and just some insights about them if you're trying to decide between like what's really the best for you. But I feel like I should start with, I'm starting with my story. So the first mode that I sort of tried was sort of like in the, this tarot online community, is sort of like being a figure of wisdom, like being a spiritual constellar that slings card. So I tried that because one of the the first tarot reader that I followed was Kellyanne Maddox, and she was such a figure, and she still is such a figure. She's like a card slinger, she's a chaos witch, she's just this incredible source of wisdom, and then it just like, she was like my tarot hero. I was like, oh my god. And she was the reason that I started this whole thing, because she like had that Etsy shop at the time. It was before she moved on to her website, and I was like, that would be so cool if I have a little tarot shop on Etsy, and they just named it Fablestand, and that's how I started. So I thought I would just kind of follow what she was doing, posting insights about, my spiritual musings, or insights about tarot, and then just have them drive people to my shop. Actually, in the beginning, I didn't actively drive people to my shop. I just posted a link there because I felt guilty about promoting, and I was like afraid of judgment and all that jazz. But that's kind of how I got started. I just sort of followed Kellyanne Maddox, and then I just soon discovered there's like other figures in the tarot online community who are doing the same thing, such as Jesse Huttenberg, Carrie Mellon, all those wonderful tarot people and card slingers who are figures of wisdom, who are sharing, their groundedness, and they are holding space for people through the lens of tarot and through the lens of whatever that they're practicing. So I thought it was really cool, and that's what I did for a while. And for a long time, I thought my main thing was gonna just be like a tarot reader. But I think one thing that I experienced that kind of let me know that wasn't really my route was, number one, I was never comfortable or just never really connected with the idea of positioning myself as a figure of wisdom. Like I said, I have moments where I want to do that, or I just have moments where I want to share some of the wisdom that I've gained for myself. But like the idea of holding space for others, the idea of helping people on their life's journey, the idea of actually being a figure in which you sort of insert yourself into their dialogue, to have a dialogue and conversation with them, to help them unblock things, release things, heal things, find their autonomy, find their authenticity, etc. I don't know, that wasn't really who I am. And for the longest time as a tarot reader, I wasn't, honestly wasn't really pulled by a strong desire to help people. And I know that sounds kind of terrible and even a bit selfish, and that was sort of my thoughts at the time as well. Of course, like I love the idea of helping people, like it's nice. But what I was driven by was mostly just the creative writing aspect of it, because all my readings are done through email. Everything is like a written document. So I was really drawn to the idea of writing a story or a piece of narrative for somebody that sort of will inspire them to look at themselves in a different way, will give them insight that they need, will give them the language that I needed to express the emotions and feelings inside that they didn't have, previously didn't have words to describe. So that was really fun for me. Like I was always drawn to the creative aspect of it, like writing a story for people. That's why I kind of like, there was a point where I was like, wasn't really calling my tarot readings intuitive readings. I was just kind of telling them like, I just started calling them like intuitive writings or like a channeled chapter from your life or something like that, because that was really what it was. I just used my intuition and my ability to interpret tarot to channel this piece of story that will resonate with my clients, that will resonate with the seekers who come to Fablestan for a reading. And that was sort of like the part that I enjoyed the most. That was the part that resonated with the most. But the idea of like holding space and helping people and really being a figure, really being a guide and a teacher in that way, in that direct way, having that relationship with people, that I think I kind of felt that like that wasn't my cup of tea. Like I enjoyed it to an extent, but I knew that, I think deep down inside, even from the very beginning, I kind of knew like that wasn't really my destiny. I think I was meant to do something else, to kind of express my message and express myself. I mean, like I did have a message. Like I believe that we should always honor our inner child. We should never lose our imagination. We should never stop being childlike just because we're adults now. And we should just keep things simple. We should just relax and try to, etc. Like I have a set of philosophies that I live by that I want people to know, right? So it's like I enjoyed it, but I knew that wasn't like my destiny. So I kind of moved away from being like a like sort of like a figure of wisdom in the tarot online community, and I kind of did that for like a couple of years, and mostly because there were points in time like it wasn't something I just set out to consciously succeed to a maximum degree. Like I didn't start with the intention of like I'm gonna hit this goal by this time, I'm gonna do this by that time. At the time, I was working as an English tutor, like a self-employed English tutor. So I was mostly spending time on my English tutoring business, and it was kind of like a side thing for like a long time. So I kind of just did the same thing over and over, kind of just posted videos, talked about tarot, and then did readings for people. So I kind of just did that like for, I wasn't I wasn't really aggressively pushing the advancement of to progress my business, like in terms of growth and etc. So that wasn't something I did regularly. It was just something that I did, like I said, I mostly did like English tutoring. So I did that for a long time, and then it wasn't until last year when I really quit my muggle job, which is my business as an English tutor, and I started doing Fablestan full time. That was when I got really pressured to kind of like generate a lot of income to cover all my expenses, because it's gonna be my bread and butter. And reason why I quit English tutoring was because it wasn't bringing me joy anymore. It was just like really lethargic. Like I made a video about this, I think, and then I talked about it, and then don't get me wrong, like it wasn't a terrible job. Like I enjoyed teaching, I enjoyed having a positive impact on the students that I got to tutor, but it was just like it's not really my destiny anymore. So that was the time when I sort of started to experiment with a different mode of online business, which is the more technical and the more, I guess, industry driven, or I don't know what's the term, like the more really getting into the technicalities and the business strategies of having an online business. Sometimes you would see Facebook ads or Instagram ads about like, people doing coaching, people doing workshops, people doing master classes. So that's the world I was getting into because I wanted to get into it. I was really attracted by the idea of having a passive income, having a scalable business where I could start and then eventually build up to a point where I could just have a lot of passive income generated by all the technology and funnels and whatever that I set up. And then I could just be sitting there having a cup of coffee or a tea in my case. I don't really drink coffee, makes me poop. I could just be sitting there and do nothing. I can take a month or two off and I'll still be getting enough passive income to support myself and to enjoy the luxuries of life. Not that I'm like a luxurious person, but I'll basically have a lot of passive income. And then I was really attracted by the idea, especially it was a time when, I really wanted to make it work, right? Because now that because I quit my muggle job, so I really wanted to make it work. So I got into this online business world where, to be honest, the online business world is really it's like online business owners helping other online business owners. So it's like this sort of like, it's like in many ways, I thought it was a closed off circle, not in the sense that it's isolating, but it's just like, I feel like the people who would spend a lot of money on coaching and courses are usually like other online business owners because it's very result driven, right? It's very result based. So people are more likely to invest in their business for more money. So yeah, I kind of tried that and I really started, I would say I experimented with that for 6 to 7 months now, right? Until like now. So this is pretty recent, in the whole scope of things. So this is pretty recent. And, this is my notes. I'm just like, I wrote down all the things I wanted to say to make sure that I got everything down, but it's kind of hard to read because like I said, I'm like half blind, but anyway, so I thought having an online business would be really cool because the core of my online business at the time, I wanted to create a lot of online courses. And I thought this was a great idea because, I've been an English tutor for a decade and I'm really experienced with creating things like worksheet or breaking down concepts and then coming up with creative ways to explain something that's old and traditional and then kind of encouraging people to find their autonomy as a learner, encouraging people to be better students in their own way, to help them find their thought process, etc. And these are all important things for me because I believe that whatever you study or learn in school or in life, or if it's just your hobby, it's important to know who you are as a learner and really know your strengths and weaknesses and accept yourself as the kind of learner you are. And yeah, I just really like the idea of online courses and it's like a digital product, so it's scalable. So I wanted to start making courses, and then kind of just make that the bulk of my business. Kind of wanted to make that my main quest, as I always say. And that's, like I said, it's what I've been doing for the past 6 to 7 months. And when it comes to the online business world, there's a lot of technical things like, you have to write a copy, you have to do funnels, and you have to do, what else? You have to build your email list, you have to collect emails, and then you have to grow your social media, and then you have to connect with your audience. So there's a lot of stuff. And then it's like, and all that kind of stuff. And for the past 6 to 7 months, I've been trying to do that. I've been trying to incorporate a lot of these new business technologies into my online business, hoping that it would generate more income, more connection with my audience, and more results, basically. I try things like ConvertKit, which is like a newsletter email engine, and then I also tried Deadline Funnel, I tried Squarespace, and to be honest, as of now, like the only platform that I decided that I love, that bring me consistent joy and pleasure, is Squarespace, because I love my website. It's looking so pretty now. I ditched WordPress because it was really hard to convert and work with and configure graphical elements. It was really hard to try to make it look pretty. And I remember I gave it WordPress because it took me like 2 fucking hours to get a button to work. And at the time I was just like, I'm bloody done. I'm going to Squarespace. So that's like my only sort of, that's my space of joy. But yeah, I think and then it's just been incredibly stressful trying to set up all those technology. And I had the goal of like having a lot of passive income, having a scalable business in mind, but I don't know, it just wasn't me. Like, this is a very recent realization this week, actually. You know, actually, like, literally just a few days ago, I was working through this big money shadow. Okay, like, I posted about money and abundance before on this channel, and I worked through a lot of my own shit, such as, like, how money is associated with your sense of success or self-worth, etc. But it just like, it's something that I haven't been able to crack. You know, like I've been pretty successful when it comes to like incorporating or integrating the shadows of my relationships or working out issues in other areas, but money was like my tough spot. Like it was just, I've been trying to sort of overcome this for the past 2-3 years, like consciously been trying to work out my money story. And then I've gotten better, of course, like definitely improved, but I just always drift back to this mindset of lack. And I just, honestly, like last week or earlier this week, I was just so tired of it. I just realized I was at rock bottom with this. I was just like, I've tried everything in the past 2 years. I've tried shadow working, I've tried journaling, I've tried getting tarot readings, I've tried getting counseling, I've just talking to friends and everything. Okay, everything I could think of. I tried everything. And also, and like by everything I mean everything. Like the spiritual aspect of it, the emotional aspect of it, the social aspect of it, the support aspect of it, and also the pragmatic financial, like practical aspect of it, like budgeting and managing your money, etc. Tried everything, but I was just like, why am I still stuck here? So at that moment of surrender, I guess, if you want to call it that, at that lowest, like that low point, I was just like, I hate this story. I don't know why I'm hanging on to it. Please, universe, take it away from me, because I fucking hate it. I don't want to have this money script running in the back of my mind, making me feel like I'm never making enough money, or I'm always lacking this, lacking that, like I'm never good enough, or I never have enough. I'm just so sick of it. Like I don't want to live like this. Like nobody wants to live like that. Like I'm tired. I'm freaking tired of this. And then I had one of the biggest epiphanies of my life. Like it was when I realized it, when I found where that story came from. It was a big fat ancestral baggage that I've been carrying, came from my dad and probably from his grandparent, from my granddad, and it just sort of trickled down, or not even trickled down. It was just flooded my existence, and that was sort of what I've been carrying, and that was like a big knot that I unknotted. And it was like, it was when I realized that my obsession, or my intense fear of lack, this feeling of lack of money is really, it came from a really deep place. That was a place that I've never ventured into before. And then it's a very, very long story, so I'm not going to tell you all of it in this video, but that was the thing that I was struggling with. That was the thing that was taking up so much room in my heart, that was taking up so much space, and I was able to release it. I feel so relieved. I mean, I was also relieved, like through the form of tears and stuff. I've never cried so hard for a long time. I was like crying so hard, because I knew like that energy was moving through me, it was moving out of me, it was being released. I was crying, I was bawling, I was like, there was a river of snot just like dripping down. That's how much I cried. Like, you're crying a lot when you can't stop. Like no matter how much you sniff, it just goes down anyway. It was a mess. I won't like gross you out with all the details, although I kind of just did. But so I worked through that big ancestral baggage, and that was when I have the epiphany that I have now, which is trying to do this online business with all the technical stuff, with this industry, sort of more tactical, more promotional, and I don't know if it's promotional based, but it's like more systematic way of running an online business. It was honestly stressing me out, and it was too like, it just didn't work for me. I'm not saying like having a business like that is less authentic or less heart-centered. It was just like the mode, I just kind of don't have the temperament for it, because I'm really emotional and intuitively based, and that's how I tend to experience my life. And having something so rigid, it just didn't work for me. Again, I'm not saying it's bad, right? I think you need to have, I'm just saying like you need to have certain temperaments, you need to kind of enjoy that kind of system to be really able to thrive with that model, but didn't work for me, okay? And then this is something that I've been realizing. I'm just like, I've been trying to make this work, but honestly, I feel like it's just taken up more I feel like the what it's costing me is more than what it's giving me, you know, like emotionally, materially, physically, like it's just the effort and the stress and the boredom and the impatience that I put in trying to sit through this, trying to make it work. It just wasn't worth the joy and the even money, you know, on the practical level and the creativity that I craved. It's really like a huge imbalance, and I just think I'm coming like as of now coming to a conclusion that it's honestly not for me. So I decided to change lanes and switch gears consciously this time, because I feel like when I switched from my first mode of business to my second mode of business, it wasn't like as conscious. I wasn't as conscious as I am now. Like it wasn't because like, oh, I didn't want to be a spiritual figure, so I'm gonna do this. It was more like, oh, this seemed like another cool thing that I can try, or this seemed like a cool thing that I can do right now. So it was like less conscious. But now I'm consciously deciding that I think that those two modes of business are not for me. I'm an artist at heart. I just want to create and keep things simple. And let's see what else I wrote down here. Yeah, like I just found the online business world, you know, all the tech and the structure. It's too much for me, and I hate it. Like I discovered that I hate it. Like I really hated it. Like I mean, it wasn't like I didn't hate it with, like, I'm not hating it with passion, as in, like, it didn't cause me that much suffering, but it was pretty stressful to go through that 7 months trying to do all this funnels and all the figure all the technology, to set it up, to write all the copy, to put a deadline on things, etc. It was just too exhausting for me. Like, it was costing me my joy and my sense of freedom and my carefreeness. It was really against my nature. Like, it just didn't really, it's not, it was incompatible with the software, was incompatible with the hardware. Okay, I wasn't born like that. I don't think it would run smoothly on my system. So I'm kind of moving away from it, because what I want ultimately is where I want to, I've been thinking a lot about the kind of life that I want to live, like how I want to experience my life, how I want to experience my business, because my business isn't just my business, it's my entire livelihood, it's who I am as a person, so it's intrinsically linked. It's like more or less the same thing. So I've been thinking about how I want to experience everything, how I want to experience creating the life that I want to live. And I just discovered that I haven't been through this two modes of business, this long journey of like trying out different things. I really feel that I'm someone who is very carefree. I'm not very ambitious. I don't need a huge goal and number or in some kind of like numerical, like quantifiable value. I just want to, you know, really just be in the moment. I want to be carefree. I just want to focus on creating. I just want to create something, share with people, leave it out there for the world, give it to the world and be done with it. Well, not be done with it as in like go away, but I just want to like move on to the next thing that I create, because that's the space of my joy. That is where I'm the most alive. There, I said it. And I just want to find a way to do that. I want, and just all this like funnels and convert kits and whatever, it's just like very, I just want something that's very simple and straightforward and it's stress free, and I want to walk the path of an artist. And you know, and honestly, I think that was the path that I was meant to take from the start. I think that was the path I sort of just knew it was what I wanted to do, but I haven't completely figured it out yet. So, yeah, that's my story, and this is kind of where I am now. This is where I stand. I want to continue, of course, on, you know, with the journey of Fablestan. I want to keep going because it's my heart, my life, my soul. But now I think I'm much more clear on what it needs to be and who I want to be in this business and how I want to experience it and how I want to experience it with my audience, with you guys if you're watching. You know, I want to be an artist, and I want to just focus on creating what I love, creating more things, creating more love for the world. And then, you know, I don't need to be a spiritual teacher. I don't need to be a figure of authority. I don't need to work through this complicated and all this business stuff. Is just, I mean, it's still a business, right? But it's like, I don't want to go through the technical, like all the funnels. I'm like sitting here like saying like as if like funnels is bad. It's not bad. I just don't have the temperament for it, okay? But yeah, that's where I am now. And that's sort of my personal story with it. And if you want to stay a little bit longer, I realize this video is turning into it got kind of big, but you know, I hope it's still like an insightful video. I think with all the story that I want to tell and all the things that I wanted to say, like it kind of just had to be a long video. Well, instead of a video, let's just say this is like a live workshop sharing session podcast thing. I don't know.